Hey, it's me again. And let me preface this by saying that this will not be an easy video for me to make. This is going to be rather difficult. Luckily, through the magic of editing, we can do this several takes. I've always said, know your emotions. And I know this is going to be hard. The mere thought of making a YouTube video right now just makes me want to break down in tears and cry. For those who don't know, my very good friend Tony passed away Sunday night. Not long after I spoke with him on the phone. But Tony didn't like seeing people upset, so I'm sure he wouldn't be watching this video if he was alive. He would see me cry and not watch it. That was a big thing, what we talked about for the past several months, if not almost a better part of a year now, is how to make people not so sad. And we would talk about sentiment and morale and what we could do to help people. Again, Tony didn't like seeing people upset or sad, and if he sensed that sentiment, he would always ask me, what could we work on together. Tony was a very kind, intelligent, and analytical person. He also had a very great way of listening to you at first. Except when he got very excited about something, that he was quick to interrupt, as we both were. We would get on certain topics and we would start just blah, interrupting each other, and it would just come out. You could tell when we were both excited. When he was excited, he wasn't afraid to just jump in and let you know what he thought. But he was very kind. Nobody would second guess his level of intelligence and his analytical skills. His ability to visualize my non-linear way of thinking into a linear fashion using tables and charts. And it was from this that, we started working together. I would say he had a lot of patience. He was very shocked to learn that I considered his demeanor to be patient. Tony always talked about how, because he naturally didn't have any patience. And then I would suggest, well, maybe it's your mannerisms, your way of talking. It gives the illusion like you're a person of great patience. And the fact that you usually are a good listener. And he was shocked to learn this. Over the past 2 years, Tony and myself have become great friends. And towards the end, I consider him one of my best friends. Because we talk so often. He first messaged me on Reddit just almost 2 years ago about oil and gas, the Oro Grande, and this thing called MMTLP. And he watched some of my YouTube videos. And then he kept talking to me on Reddit. I would always take the time to answer his questions, because he would always ask me analytical things, and he was very shocked that I answered all of his questions. And then he started mentioning me in YouTube videos, and I was like, oh. And from there, he began his own YouTube following. And as we know, we worked on a lot of math together. Our last project was, we were trying to put a more exact value on Nuco, with the gas, but together we never got to finish it. In the beginning, though, we didn't talk all the time, even though it was a lot of questions. It was very, one-sided, and he'd ask and I'd answer, and he'd ask and I'd answer. It'd be about oil and gas, and then he'd always come up to me with a question. He's like, okay, bye. Once I got the answer, he would skedaddle. He was very polite, a bit shy. He didn't want to feel like he was wasting people's times. But as time grew on, we talked more and more, and we collaborated more, and then we just started talking about whatever, and it got to the point where, we would talk about canon, about Celebrimbor from Lord of the Rings. That was one of his favorite literary series, was Lord of the Rings. We would talk quite a bit about science fiction and high fantasy novels. And one of his favorite series was Lord of the Rings, as well as his other favorite, he liked Glorfindel. And he asked if Glorfindel, was mentioned at all. And we made our own canon about Glorfindel if he appeared in the movies by Peter Jackson. And I said we talked quite a bit about a lot of things. And I last spoke to him on Sunday. And then he texted me again on Sunday evening. And now it's going to be a bit more difficult to make YouTube videos because Tony is no longer here to bounce ideas off of and to collaborate with. In fact, I was half anticipating him to call me last night when he usually called me. Which it was often right before I was going to sleep. When I was in bed, relaxing. But that's okay. It was always something that, made me happy when he called. Even if it was, there was a bit of a time difference in our time zones. But, I'm sure he would have called me yesterday and said, so what's this Tony, rest in peace Tony's trending? I see that there's another Tony. And then we'd have to talk about it. And we'd probably talk about sentiment. And he would probably be very shocked to learn the amount of people he had an effect on. Again, as he started up YouTube videos more as a way to discuss with friends ideas, and this way he didn't have to repeat himself if a friend didn't show up to their weekly meetings. Tony would claim that he didn't have a lot of patience, so then rather than orate the meeting for this other person, he would just make a video, and then it was there for people to not only draw back on and go back as like an archival thing, and well, where'd this information come from? Great, we archived it through videos. But then, if anybody was out of the loop for a week or two, here's the video of what we talked about. So that's fine. I'm more of an orator. He was not. But it worked well. But I have a strong suspicion that it's going to take some time for me to heal from this. Since he's not here anymore. And I can never watch Lord of the Rings without thinking about him now. Listen to one of the many books on tape. It's going to be hard to do. But I know Tony would be very happy that a lot of the arguing and differences of opinion much of it was put aside yesterday, and a lot of people came together and take a moment and say goodbye and share something. That was very nice, and it would have made Tony happy that, you know, a lot of people stopped the fighting and stopped arguing and took a minute to achieve something a bit nicer, a bit kinder, a bit more productive. He would have been very happy to learn that. And I remember uh, when uh, Tony first appeared on Terry's video, and for many people, that was the first time they saw Tony. And they're like, oh, that's what he looks like. And there was a lot of wild rumors floating about Tony that he was this other guy. And, oh, it turns out he wasn't. And, because everybody's like, why is this guy hiding his face? Why is he hiding his face? Is, you know, Tony's earlier videos. And Tony would always say, well, what's my face have to do with this evidence? What's my face have to do with presenting my case? It doesn't really have anything to do with it. And I'd be like, well, showing your face is more personable. You know, people always like putting a face to something. And he's like, oh, okay. It was after that he started really showing his face more in the videos and showing himself. Because you felt like you got to know him better than just some narrating voice. And I would say yes, it did definitely have an impact on a lot of people. Because a lot of people came together yesterday. Okay, guys, that's it for right now. That's it for today, at least. In the near future, I'll probably have more videos about Tony. This is just my initial video. But I'll probably have something better in the future. I know a lot of people have been asking, you know, you should say something, you should say something. Yesterday, I wasn't able to say anything publicly. It was too much of a shock. Today is still very, very difficult. Although we do have the magic of video editing. But I'm sure I'll think of some better words, better vocabulary to help remember Tony by. I will see you soon. Goodbye.